Welcome to This Explainer. Right off the bat, we're going to be looking at a really deeply tragic incident that happened recently down in southwestern Virginia. It's a sobering story, for sure. But, as we respectfully walk through the details of what happened, it actually reveals something absolutely astonishing. We're talking about the staggering scale of the region's completely unmapped underground networks. I mean, most of us walk around every single day totally unaware of the massive, dark voids existing literally just beneath our feet. So let's dive right in and uncover the geography and the mystery behind this terrible event.
And we really have to begin with a terrifying number, 100, specifically a 100-foot drop. To put that into perspective for you, that's roughly the equivalent of falling from a 10-story building. And tragically, this is the exact distance a woman plummeted to her death inside a rural cave in Staffordsville, Virginia. Just imagine that sheer drop, right? Pitch black conditions, completely cut off from the world above. It is just a harrowing thought, and it instantly sets the scale for the kind of extreme environment we're dealing with today.
Section 1. A fatal fall. So this happened in Giles County. If you're not familiar, it's a rural community situated right along the West Virginia border, maybe an hour or so drive from Roanoke. It's really known for its rugged natural beauty. Now, it was here that authorities used DMV records to identify the victim as 38-year-old Autumn Nicole Draper. She lived in Fairlawn, Virginia. And what's really notable about that is Fairlawn is only about 30 miles away from the cave site in Staffordsville. So, she wasn't a tourist just passing through. She was pretty local to the area, living just a short drive from the terrain where she ultimately lost her life.
Moving on to Section 2, the complex cave recovery.
Look, recovering a victim from a 100-foot drop is tough enough in broad daylight on the side of a mountain, right? But trying to do that inside a dark, subterranean environment, that requires an incredibly complex and highly specialized operation. You're dealing with totally confined spaces, absolute darkness, loose rocks, vertical shafts. It takes intense rope rigging skills. The timeline of the response really puts this into perspective. At 4:15 p.m. on a Friday, that initial 911 call came in reporting the fall. Shortly after, local sheriff's deputies, fire officials from nearby Pearisburg, and a county rescue squad arrived on scene. They did manage to locate her body, but they almost immediately realized the extreme logistical nightmare in front of them. Giles County Emergency Services noted that responders instantly knew they needed specialized resources. They had to call in another emergency crew and, crucially, a highly specialized technical rescue cave team. It was actually this technical team that had to work well into the evening to finally extricate her body from the depths of that cave.
Section 3. The unanswered questions.
Now, while that specialized team was thankfully able to retrieve Autumn's body and bring a somber close to the physical rescue, it left investigators grappling with some really profound mysteries. The physical recovery, well, that was just the first part of the equation. Understanding the how and the why is a whole different ballgame. And these are the core questions driving the ongoing investigation right now. Why was Autumn inside this specific cave in the first place? And what exact sequence of events led to such a massive fatal fall? Was she just exploring? Was it an accidental slip near an unseen edge? A 100-foot drop definitely implies a sudden and catastrophic loss of footing, but the precise circumstances leading up to that exact moment inside the darkness of that cave, they just remain completely unclear.
Section 4. Virginia's vast underground.
To even begin to understand how someone could just suddenly face a 100-foot natural drop, we really have to zoom out. We need to look at the staggering scale of Virginia's subterranean geography. It is incredibly vast. Honestly, unless you're a geologist or maybe a really passionate caver, you probably have no idea just how hollow the ground beneath this state actually is. Take a look at this number, 4,400. The Virginia Department of Conservation and Recreation currently tracks at least 4,400 distinct caves spread all throughout the state. I mean, that is an enormous amount of subterranean real estate. And remember, these are just the ones that have been found, tracked, and documented. In certain geological regions of the state, the Earth is acting almost like a giant sponge.
So a really crucial point here is understanding the difference between the caves you might, say, visit on a family vacation and the ones that just exist out in the wild. There is a stark contrast between show caves and wild caves. Out of those 4,400 tracked caves, only about a dozen of them are actually developed as show caves for tourism. Think of places like Luray Caverns, paved walkways, handrails, bright lighting, totally safe. The vast majority, though, thousands upon thousands of them remain completely wild. They're unlit, unmapped, incredibly rugged, and inherently dangerous.
And what's really wild is when we zoom back into Giles County specifically, which is exactly where this tragedy occurred. Data from the Volunteer Virginia Speleological Survey reveals an immense, mind-boggling local network. There are at least 253 caves in Giles County alone, just in that one county. And get this, one of the largest local caves plunges to a record depth of 718 feet. Let that sink in for a second. 718 feet deep. Another one stretches out for more than 118,000 feet in length. Even the average cave length in this county is nearly a quarter of a mile long, right around 1,287 feet. The earth down there is practically a giant labyrinth.
And the thing is, human beings have always been drawn to this labyrinth. According to a geology and mineral resources pamphlet from the State Energy Department, we have a long, deeply rooted history of venturing into these dark spaces. And the reasons? They're incredibly varied. Historically, it ranged from seeking basic shelter or using them for religious purposes all the way to the illicit production of moonshine and mining saltpeter. Fast forward to today, and they're vital for groundwater sourcing, scientific research, recreation, and, of course, commercial attractions. We just always had this undeniable pull to explore the dark.
Which actually brings us to this fascinating quote from that same State Energy Department pamphlet. It makes a really poignant observation about our relationship with this environment. It says, humans are presently the largest animals which visit Virginia caves. I really want you to think about that. In an ecosystem that's entirely deprived of sunlight, a place where specialized tiny organisms usually rule the roost, we, humans, are the apex giants wandering into the depths. We are literally the largest creatures willingly stepping into this alien subterranean world.
As the investigation into Autumn Draper's tragic death continues to unfold, really bringing a sharp, sobering reality to the dangers of that alien world, it forces us to respectfully pause. It makes us ask ourselves, just how much of the earth beneath us remains a dangerous, unexplored mystery? The next time you're walking through the hills or forests of places like Virginia, take a second to consider the vast, silent, and sometimes perilous voids hiding right under your boots. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and please, keep exploring, but do it safely.